Once again, I welcome you with all my heart. All of it. But what do you mean by heart? What does Ed mean by heart? You see, over and over again, Robert would say, your mind is your enemy. It is not your friend. Sansanim would say, shut up, no talking. Or, Kotz, get your mind to stop. You must become dumb as a rock. But that's only because most of us dwell constantly at the level of thinking. You're going around the house doing chores and you're thinking of the next chore. You're driving around the street and you're doing it automatically while you're thinking about 100 different things. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't.
What can I do? I can't do anything more than I've done.
Now you're not talking away.
Wait a second. Let's try this. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me better?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. There's many communication problems this morning. 3 different computers and 2 different headsets before it worked. But let's get back to this. What is mind? We're using it all the time. Driving down the street, we're not paying any attention to what's going on except for looking for things that are going to get in our path ahead. But we're thinking about what we're going to do at home, when we have to do our income taxes, what kind of arrangements we have to make for tonight for the cats, when our automobile payment is coming in, what we're going to do, etc., etc. Tomorrow's the weekend, what are we going to do? Always thinking, thinking, thinking. Never a rest. So, many, many, many teachers tell us to stop the mind. Robert said, your mind is not your friend. And he gave us many exercises to stop the mind, to end the mind, kill the ego, kill the mind. Sansanim used to say, don't know mind. Don't know mind. You see, when you're in thinking, you're not in your heart. And when you're not in your heart, you really don't see the world. You see thought. And it's not that when you're in your heart, the world is suddenly transformed into something else. At least not at first. But there's an emptiness through which you feel the world. The mind knows its place. The mind is superficial. You have to go deeper than mind. That's why Robert said when you wake up in the morning, look for that gap between sleep and wakefulness, and that gap is you. In that gap you find you. What does he mean by this? He means finding that state of no thinking beingness, where you're completely open, without thinking with a filter. What am I going to do next? What am I going to do next? What do I think about that thought? What do I think about what Ed says? What do I think about Robert says? Robert's talking deep. Robert's talking superficial. Robert's doing this. Robert's doing that. Ed is superficial. Ed is brilliant. Ed is this way. Ed is that way. Always the thinking is there. Fighting, listening to whatever is being said, and being aware of what's going on in the world. So, when Sansanim says he hasn't taught anything for 50 years except don't know mind, that's a fundamental place we have to know. That's why I have some homework for you. We'll repeat it at the end, just to write it down. But give me 10 things you think enlightenment is. Write down 10 things that you think enlightenment is over the next week. What do you think enlightenment is? Oops, says I have to plug in. I thought I was plugged in. Okay. Question number 2. What is your life like, your subjectivity, after enlightenment? What are your ideas about that? How are you going to be after enlightenment? Are you going to be richer, poorer, all-knowing, able to teleport, predict the stock market, never have a jangled nerve, feel no emotions, be utterly free of emotions, or be more intensely in motions? What are you going to be like after enlightenment? What are your ideas? You must have some ideas. You're trying to get there. Otherwise, you're like me. I didn't know what the hell enlightenment was, but I was trying to get it. So how are you going to be after enlightenment? What's going to be different? What's going to be changed? The third question is, what is meant by self-realization as opposed to enlightenment? Are they the same? Are they different? You know, many disciplines talk about no self. So self-realization has no meaning for them. Buddha can't self-realize. There's no self for the Buddha. There's no self for certain kinds of Advaitins either, or no separate self. But there's self for many other traditions, like the Sufis, Christians, other Advaitists. There was for Ramana. There was a self for Robert, the real I, he called it. Both Ramana and Robert called it the real I, which is underneath the false I of the thinking mind. Those 3 questions. Stay with them for a week. Matter of fact, you can ponder them right now for about 5 minutes in silent meditation. What is enlightenment? How would you be if you were enlightened? What would be different? What is self-realization? I guess we can add a 4th. How would you be after you were self-realized? What would be different if you were self-realized? And then automatically the question comes up, what is the self? Now, what is the self, not in a theoretical sense, but what is the self from first-hand point of view of the subject? You. You, Rich. You, Charlie. You, Imra. You, Harold, and Eric, and Daniel. What are you after you're self-realized? Is there any difference than right now when you're not self-realized? What changes? Dinesh, what is self-realization? How are you going to be different after you realize yourself? John, how about you? Linda, how about you? Matthew, what about you? Nadine, how are you going to be different? What does it mean for you? Self-realization or enlightenment, how are you going to be different afterwards? In other words, you must think about some ideal that enlightenment or self-realization means that you're struggling for, that you don't like in your life right now, that's going to change once you're self-realized or enlightened. What is it that you're looking for? Are you looking for confusion to go away? Are you looking for emotional pain to go away? Are you looking to transcend humanity altogether and become immortal, where you won't be touched by anything or hurt by anything? Are you trying to know God, the infinite within yourself? Are you trying to find reality? Are you trying to find the real? Because the world you live in seems so false and fake. You're looking for the reality and it's not here. Is that what enlightenment means for you? Is that what self-realization means for you? Or is it that you don't feel centered, you don't feel you know who you are, you feel fragmented, and you just like to be clearly who you are? You don't know what the mind is, you don't know what enlightenment is, you don't know what self-realization is, but you trust that there is some sort of remedy for whatever soul-searching and neediness you have. What is it that you want to be after you're enlightened? How would you want to be after you're enlightened? How would it be after to know who yourself is? How is it different from you are now? Go deep inside and get beneath the mind and go into that gap between the thoughts by taking your attention, your concentration out of your eyes and your mind right here. The third eye is the thinking eye. Drop your attention downwards in through your mouth, throat, into your chest and into your gut. And let the center of attention, your center of gravity, sink into your gut. So the energy's not in your brain anymore, but drops down. And you know a quiet of beneath the mind, of being in the gap. This is what Robert means by the gap. You drop behind or below the thinking. And instead, you're in feeling. You're not in the seeing so much, which is highly associated with thinking, but in the heart, in feeling. When you're in the feeling part of you, there are no more questions. There just is what is. You are what is. But what does enlightenment mean for you? How are you going to be different? Let me see. Let's see who's all here. Let's see who's all here. Shane, how are you going to be different? Susita, when you are realized, how are you going to be different? Sindria, you've got 1,000 different ideas about what you're going to be like after an awakening. Be really you. But there are the energies. There are the body energies. There's the feeling of bliss. There's confusion. There's feeling your body intensely and then not feeling it at all. It's a vast, vast confusion. Everything's spinning at 1,000 miles per hour because your mind is also going 1,000 miles per hour. Sansani must have told you that you're too smart, that your mind is always thinking. That's how he did it. He did it with his fingers like this, thinking. It wasn't a put down, it was a reflection of where you are. The little golf ball that keeps going around the top of the cup without dropping in because it's thinking. Now, who here is who's on screen is guilty of thinking. How many will copt to being guilty of thinking? Or some of us have been experiencing 6 years of subtle body energies and bliss, then coming back to ordinary life and being nothing, being the same as always, and wonder, where is all this going? Is this all that there is? So, for many of us, we have to recognize that we are just in utter confusion about anything, including what enlightenment is, what self-realization is, what the mind is, who we are, what we want. And what is the mind? If you go inwards and look for the I thought, like I did with Robert for many, many years, you watch where it comes and comes out of and where it goes into, you see an empty space opens up inside of yourself. The darkness inside becomes lighted, and it becomes infinite space after a year of strong meditation. And you see that the I comes out of that empty space and goes into that empty space, and you keep looking after it, and the empty space gets larger and larger and more lit. It's an unceasing practice. The emptiness gets larger and larger. And the emptiness contains all phenomena, contains all thoughts, all images, all emotions, all of life. But that lighted emptiness also destroys them. It fills all of the objects with emptiness, so they have no substance, and they don't touch you. And gradually you can lose hold of your humanity. Gradually you lose hold of your being a human in a body because you're so absorbed by the emptiness. That's why I tell people not to practice that way. But if they're going to practice self-inquiry, to look inside as Robert tells you to do, but do it as an avid explorer, feeling the sense of I am. Feeling the sense of I am in and around the heart. And just rest there, in the I am if you can find it. When you find that sense of I am, love that sense of I am. Love that energetic core which connects us to our bodies. Feel the I am. Love the I am. Love everything that surrounds the I am. Love your chest and your insides. Love the body felt from the inside. Watch the mind think, because now you're deeper than the mind. You're down into your, at least the emotional level. or the beingness level out of which the mind arises and the body is felt. Feel the body. Feel your body. Now, instead of just watching it, love it. Love your body as felt and experienced from the inside, not as you see it in a mirror or look down, but as your body is felt on the inside. And usually, if you're looking in your body, you start feeling muscle tensions, like in your back, your hips, your lips, your throat. Feel how tight they are, how twisted they are, how conforming they are. Feel the tightness in your chest and in your back. Feel the tightness in the low back around the hips that cramp you up and prevent your movement. Feel your feet where it touches the ground, or like mine are up on a chair right now and the wind is hitting it. Feel your body. Love your body. Those who say you are not your body are wrong. Robert says you are not your body. Why would he say a thing like that? Here's the key. People that came to Robert were suffering. And he figured the greatest way, the quickest way to get them out of the suffering is to forget their suffering. To go inside and feel themselves and be themselves. Spend a lot of time in themselves. Get away from the external world concerns and worries. Don't worry, he'd say, about the world. Forget the world. Yet at the same time, the world was always pulling on him and everybody else. But he was trying to make you understand it's not that important. There's an inner world that's even more important. However, you can become so absorbed in inner world exploration, you lose touch with the outside world and you become a monk, a sadhu, living in the emptiness, or rising higher, living into the joy of the heart, feeling the sense of self in the heart, of the I am in the heart, loving it, feeling it, exploring one's insides. I tell people I want you to explore your insides, all of it. The mind from underneath the mind, your body from your heart, your body with a sense of vision, your body with a sense of feeling. And gradually the subtle body energies will be revealed to you, which are deeper than the mind. The beingness is deeper than the mind. That emptiness is deeper than the mind. The subtle body energies are deeper than the mind too. The kundalini energies that start flowing, like Eric knows so well. The Shakti, the life force that pervades his body and shoots out into space around him, electrifying all around him and electrifying him with bliss. The same with Charlie, feeling the bliss. Imra, feeling the bliss. Maggie, feeling the bliss. Matter of fact, we should do that as a meditation right now. We'll go one step deeper than the mind. With your imagination, take hold of the hands of the next person next to you in our Sangha. Right now there are 28 of us, separated by 7,000 or 8,000 miles. Feel them. Reach out your left and right hand on either side. Hold on to the next person next to you. Now, you're doing this with your mind. Actually, you're doing it with a different part of you. You're doing it with your energy field. The director is not really the mind. The director is you who wants to know who you are. To you, the mind is just a plaything. It's just a cranky child that has to claim your attention all the time. But get lower than that, get deeper than that, get into the emptiness, and grab the hand of your partners on either side. Now, with the full will and cooperation of our Sangha, let the energies come circulate through you. First through your left hand, up your left arm, into your face, your chest, your abdomen, and into your heart, where it's felt and amplified, and then sent out through your right hand and arm to the person next to you. When you breathe in, the energy comes in your left arm. It stays a microsecond and then goes out through your right arm. Or you could pull it in through an entire breathing sequence of 2 or 3 cycles. Hold it for a second and then send it out through your right hand. Just feel the energies coming in from the person next to you. Feel them circulate in the heart and your chest. Clockwise or counterclockwise. For me, they're always counterclockwise. And then it departs from this side out of my hand, out of my face, into the person next to me. Maybe you can imagine all of you being next to me. In the in-breath, the energy comes into you from your left hand, from the person next to you. Circulates around your heart several times, and goes out your right hand. Now you can feel your body, and you can feel the emptiness, and you can feel the subtle body energies. All of these are deeper than thinking. All of these are deeper than thinking. You are deeper than thinking now. You're in the emptiness, feeling the subtle body energies, which are the first level of Shakti. Just let the energies circulate through you and through the Sangha. I'm going to play a chanting now. Let's just let this go on for 5 minutes. Now, if you're feeling the energies strongly, you've gone below the mind. Keep your attention on the energies. Also, you might be aware of where the attender to is. Where is the witness? Is the witness in the energies or apart from the energies? Is the witness in the energies or the emptiness? Is the witness the emptiness itself? Can you find a witness? Is the witness in the body? Is the witness the same as the I am sensation? Or is it different? Look, look. In other words, I'm asking, who are you? What are you? We are explorers of the infinite inside. Most of you explored the outside world most of your life. In family, newspapers, science, a career, academia, economics, astrology, astronomy, chemistry, engineering, physics, mathematics. You think truth lies there, but it doesn't. There's no truth in any of those disciplines. There's just words and concepts. Truth can only be found in your heart. When the mind stops, the thinking stops. For in your heart, you apprehend the world in a different way. Not through seeing and making sense of things, but by being open and vulnerable and empty and ever more open to whatever arises. And it's different than what you would think. Did you ever get those premonitions that something bad was about to happen? Sometimes the premonitions would last hours, sometimes days. I used to get them a lot. And you know, it never came true. The feeling of fear that something was about to go wrong never came true. Bad shit happened a lot, yeah. But usually it came out of nowhere. Blindsided me. The premonition, the worry, the anticipation of the badness was always not true. And don't we all have a lot of that inside of ourselves? The fear that something is about to go wrong, or could go wrong at any moment. Things could get worse, and they don't. And gradually you don't listen to that voice much anymore about things getting worse. On the flip side, you don't listen to that voice that says, everything is fine. The world is fine as it is. Everything is going to work out just great. That false optimism. We see that that's not true either. The truth is, when we don't have those premonitions, those anticipations of good or evil, of betterment or worsement, and are just sitting still in emptiness, filled with emptiness, but mostly lying in our hearts, our empty hearts. A place of supreme vulnerability, supreme sensitivity, where the entire world is being perceived not through the eyes and not through the ears, but through the heart, with little sensors being sent out everywhere, feeling this environment with our heart. Emotions are fingers of this seeing heart. Emotions are the feelers, like the cat's whispers, of the world around us. And what manifests and comes through the emptiness. The koan, or the Heart Sutra, says, form is emptiness, emptiness is form. Feeling, thought, and consciousness itself are like this. That means that from the emptiness, forms arise and pass away. And even when they're here, they're filled with emptiness. Emptiness is their true nature. They only have an appearance of solidity. They do not persevere. They do not stay. They are not permanent. They do not last. They do not prevail. The only thing that prevails is us, that witnesses the coming and going of objects, of things, of moods, of energies, of emotions, depression, happiness, love, joy. Only we persist. And we've only persisted since maybe we remember being 3 years old. And yet the feeling inside of us is that we exist forever, even though we know that death comes to the body. That deeper state in us, deeper than the mind, feels immortal. It never changes. It's always the same. The emptiness, perceiving emptiness, is always the same. It has the same quality of silence, of quiet, and through it flows the energies, flows love, flows anger, flows joy. And the lower we can get inside, the more joy we feel and the more bliss we feel, until we want to be there all the time. Gradually we sink lower and lower and lower into our consciousness. We've left the mind far behind. We feel joy more and more. We want to come to satsang more often. We want to be quiet and feel ourselves. We want to listen to sacred chanting because it stills the mind and brings joy into our hearts. And then one day, when we've loved enough, we've loved ourselves enough, we've loved another enough, the self comes out of deep hiding and shows itself to you, shows yourself to you as energy, as light, as peace, as joy, as love, as infinite power, the infinite power of the self, of Shakti, the life force, bursts forth from that emptiness inside and rises, enters our heart, then our throat, and then our brain, and exudes and explodes above. And now for the first time ever, we know who we are. Infinite light, infinite power, infinite emptiness, infinite energy, infinite joy. So big that it can't possibly be us, and yet it is us. At first it's so big, so much beyond us, that it appears to be something other than us. It appears to be God. But after the passage of time and the repeating of this experience, we find that this entity, this God, is really ourselves. And we realize we've never really known ourself. We've just known about parts of ourself through the mind, our bodies, maybe our emotions, maybe our images, maybe our nightmares, maybe our good dreams, all these memories. What are we in all of this? All of this mental confusion and contamination. What are we in all of this? Who are we in this? What is our core? And I look inside and all that I find is emptiness that is aware of emptiness. I find lights all over of different colors and different spectrums and different directions. Over to my left is the sunlight coming through the Venetian blinds. It has one kind of colors. On my right is the reflection across the room from the blue walls, gray walls. But there's nothing but light inside of me, hundreds of different variations in that emptiness that I see within. And when I shut my mouth for a while and merge into that emptiness, it pervades everything, my body, my mind, the Shakti, the energies, joy and bliss. And I am everything. Everything. There is nothing that is not me. I have owned and incorporated everything. That's why we can love each other so much, because it's just one consciousness, and life loves itself. Sentience loves itself. That's why we like little kitties, little mice, little insects, rabbits, tigers, lions, elephants, cows, sheep, other humans. Because they're like us. They're sentient. They're knowers, experiencers, explorers. And each of these little life forms are but explorers for God looking into its own self, finding itself in its own way through its own sense organs and mind. Each of us little explorers looking at sentience, looking at reality in a different way, sharing our knowledge and our experience of each other and ourselves. And gradually God gets to know him or herself through us. And knowing ourselves as God changes everything. It changes everything. Because we're no longer an individual human being doomed to die, but we are all of sentience. And we can feel the unity. And we feel loving towards that unity. We feel loving towards all beings that share sentience, that share consciousness. I love you all. And deep down you all love me. Because it's loving yourself. And not only that, that self, the basic quality of self is love. You may not know that yet, but you will learn. The basic quality of love, of self outside of awareness, is love. And usually, the deeper you go into yourself, you feel bliss. Most of the time, or all the time, when you're not paying much attention to the world. But if you started paying a lot of attention to the world, it's harder to feel the unity, the love, anything like that. It's when we have a sort of a distance from the world instead of a lot of involvement where it's pulling at us, that we can understand the truth of all these things. That's why quietness is very necessary as part of the sadhana. Being quiet and being alone for a while. And when you're not alone, when you're with somebody else, hopefully it's somebody in the sangha and you're sharing a common vision of awakening to yourself and helping the world. I hope others are feeling the energies circulating still through yourself, through your heart, opening your heart. Do you feel them, Maggie? Do you feel them, Eric? Do you feel them, Charlie? Rama? Harold? Max? Let's sit in silence while I tell you about yourself. You are not this fragile human being, not fundamentally. You are deeper than the human being you think you are. You are deeper than the role that you share in the world. You're deeper than anything. The whole world depends on you for its existence. Without you, the witness, it wouldn't exist. You are the Alpha and Omega of the universe. Love yourself for that. Without you, the universe does not exist. Okay. You've had 5 questions for homework. What do you think enlightenment is? How will we be different? How would your world be different if you were enlightened? What would change? What about self-realization? What is self-realization? Is it different from being enlightened? What is self-realization? How would it be for you if you were self-realized? What's your idea of how things would change and be different? In other words, look inside of yourself, feel inside of yourself. See if you can find a self. See if you can find a me. And next time when we talk, let me know what you find. Anyway, I love you all. Keep those energies circulating this week. Ponder those questions. Write them down. Next week you can share some of them. And we'll share what we think we are after awakening, after enlightenment, after self-realization comes. What's left of us? I love you. Take care. Goodbye. See you next week.